Hi there, friend. Do you want to do this? Then just do this. What's up, gamers? It is TreesapJake here with yet another video, and this time it is going to be my Elemental Shaman guide for Shadowlands PvP. Now, before we begin, I just want to say a few things. Number one, this is strictly for PvP. I'm going to touch a little bit on PvE, but only a few little thoughts here and there. If you're looking for a PvE guide, there are lots of other ones out there, but this is strictly for PvP. That's what I know the most about. Also, if you just want a few different bits and pieces, I'm going to put little tags down, so when you go to scroll through, there'll be, you know, talents, whatever, the little sections, there's timestamps on there, so just feel free to skip ahead if you want some different information. I'm going to be going into quite a lot of detail with certain things, so this is going to be a full comprehensive guide, so hopefully you get as much information as possible and help you get the rating that you deserve. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. It really helps the channel. We've been growing a lot lately, so please continue to do that. That's very helpful for me. Follow me on Twitter as well. I comment a lot there, and ask me as many questions as you like. I'm more than happy to help. Okay, so let's get started. Now, what is Elemental Shaman? Elemental Shaman is a high damage utility caster. Now, what does a utility caster mean? For me, a utility caster is a caster that isn't the main damage in a comp. It won't be the one that's, you know, blasting and blowing people up consistently. Obviously, we can do that, but we're not consistently doing that. We are the caster that is doing a lot of utility. We are stopping the fears. We are stopping CC on us with grounding totem. We're hexing. We've got the lowest cooldown kick in the entire game, so we're kicking a lot of casts. We're purging, offensively purging. We're stopping the mind controls. We can do a lot of things, and in fact, actually, our utility, I think, is some of the best in the game. So in terms of that, you are very much a helper, but you also provide a lot of damage. Obviously, I've said before that the damage is quite high. So what we are going to be going over today is talents, PvP talents, Covenant, which Covenant choice you should do, Soulbinds and Conduits you should use, or at least the best in my opinion. We're going to look at the legendaries, we're going to take a look at macros and UI, we'll look at PvP tips and tricks, we're going to take a look at some of the best comps, and then I'm going to all wrap it up together in a conclusion. Before we begin, I just want to go over what Elemental Shaman Mastery is, and that's very important. I just want you to keep that in mind as we go through. Elemental Shaman's Mastery is Elemental Overload. It's a passive. Your Lightning Bolt, Lava Burst, and Chain Lightning casts have a 22.1% chance, obviously depending on your mastery, to trigger a second cast on the same target, dealing 85% of normal damage and generating less Maelstrom. So, going into the talents, let's have a look at the level 15 tier, Echo of Elements. Now, this is my favorite one out of all of them. It is much better than Earthen Rage, which we used to take last season. Echo of Elements essentially gives Lava Burst 2 additional charges. I still think this should be baseline, but it is such a great thing to use. It is a very useful talent, especially as all of our damage comes from Lava Burst at the minute. We are chunking people for about 3 to 4k as long as there is a Flame Shock up. Echo of Elements, it gives Lava Burst 2 charges. Effects that reset its remaining cooldown will instead grant 1 charge. What that means is when you get a proc from Flame Shock for Lava Surge, it'll reset one of the cooldowns. So let's say you've got 1 left, you get a Lava Surge proc, it goes up to 2. So you send that one off flying, and then you can cast again. That's how it works. Or if you've got none left, you instantly get 1, and then it goes back down to 0 when you use the instant cast. That's how it works. It's a very, very useful talent. Why I would pick this over Earthen Rage? Earthen Rage, I don't think it does that much damage. The only reason why you picked it last season was because it procced off Gushing Wounds. It's a passive damage, and also it breaks CC sometimes. It's really annoying, and I found that last season as well, so I'm glad to be rid of that. Static Discharge is all about Lightning Shield. You probably won't use Lightning Shield. There may be some people that suggest it when you go into melee, but honestly, Earthen Shield heals you for so much and helps your off healing on yourself. I really, really wouldn't go for this talent. Moving on to the second row, the level 25 row, Echoing Shock is my choice of pick. The reason why is because it synergizes so well with absolutely everything in your toolkit. It is the best talent. And one of my favorite talents they've introduced into Shadowlands alongside Mind Games. I think it's an incredible, incredible talent, and it's so fun to play. You shock the target for 879 elemental damage, and you create an Ancestral Echo, causing your next damage or healing spell to be cast a second time 1 second later for free. So let's say you pop that on, and you press Lava Burst, you'll send out your Lava Burst, and then 1 second later another one will go out for the same damage, except for free, you won't be expending one of your 2 slots for Lava Burst. It's such a great talent, I really enjoy it. If we take a look at the other two, Aftershock, Earthshock and Earthquake have a 25% to refund all their Maelstrom spent. We don't build up on Earthshock at the minute. It was a big thing in BFA. It's not anymore. It will synergize maybe with the Legendary, but honestly, Echoing Shock is so strong, it's just not worth not taking it. Elemental Blast, I wouldn't take it just because of the length of the cast time. I don't think it does enough damage to warrant taking it. Echoing Shock does almost 1k damage, which is about half of what this does, and then does even more damage if you hit for a Lava Burst, for example, doing another 3k, because it doesn't reduce the damage on the second cast. I genuinely think Echoing Shock is the best out of them all. Moving on to the level 30 talent row, Earth Shield is the best by far. It is such an incredible ability. It protects the target with an earthen shield, increasing your healing on them by 20%. And healing them for 995 when they take damage. This heal can only occur once every few seconds, maximum 9 charges. Earth Shield can only be placed on 1 target at a time. Only 1 Elemental Shield can be active on the Shaman at a time. So obviously that means you cannot stack the Earth Shields on top of a target, but it's on you and it does really great healing. So for example, if you put this on yourself and you get hit, it can heal you for up to 2k sometimes. I've seen that happen. That is a lot of healing, passively healing. It also means that when you do healing surges, you're doing, instead of 2k healing surges, you're doing maybe 3 to 4k, sometimes even 7k, and I've had a 10k crit before. It is very good self-healing. For the other talents, I mean, Spirit Wolf, maybe if I was Resto Shaman, but again, I don't think it's worth. The game is very quick at the minute, like thankfully very quick. You're not going to have time to get that up, and also whilst you're on Ghost Wolf, you're not doing any damage and you're unable to press any other abilities. You're kind of stuck in there because as soon as you come out of that form, or if you're purged out of that form, because you can be offensively purged out of Spirit Wolf, you immediately lose all those stacks and everything. So I don't think it's worth. I don't think it's better. Static Charge, more of a PvE talent really, but you know, you're not going to have any amount of people caught in your Capacitator totem for this to be worth, so I really wouldn't take it. Alright guys, taking a look at the level 35 tree, I will always take Master of Elements. Casting Lava Burst increases the damage of your next nature, physical or frost spell by 20%. This is crazy. It buffs Stormkeeper Lightning Bolt attacks, which sometimes hit up to 7-8k with this. Lightning Lasso also buffed, ticking for maybe 3 to 4k sometimes. It really helps, and the crit chance obviously on Shamans is a bit higher. It's at 250% as opposed to 200%, so it really hits hard sometimes. That extra 20% can really help. I've seen Zeepai sometimes play with Storm Elemental. It calls forth the greater Storm Elemental to hurl gusts of wind that damage Shaman's enemies for 30 seconds. While the Storm Elemental is active, each time you cast Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning, the cast time of Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning is reduced by 3%, stacking up to 20 times. This does a lot of burst damage with its attack, so obviously with the Fire Elemental, you shoot down a Meteor. This sends out a big lightning burst of energy. It does a bit of burst damage. I don't think the damage is enough to warrant picking it. Also, we don't build damage over Lightning Bolt anymore. That's more filler. It still does, you know, 1 to 1.9k damage, but Lava Burst hits way more and is way more accessible. So I'd much rather take Master of Elements than using Storm Elemental. Liquid Magma Totem, again, it does AoE, it doesn't do enough damage, and it's a minute cooldown. I really wouldn't take it. It's not worth whatsoever. On the level 40 talent row, we have Nature's Guardian, and this is such an incredible spell. Once every 45 seconds, which isn't a long time, by the way, when your health is brought below 35%, you instantly heal for 20% of your maximum health. Obviously, you have no control over this, but it is a great spell. You know, 20% if you've got 30k health, that is about, you know, 6,000 health that suddenly pops back up. It is a lot of healing, especially as a lot of damage done to you is around that margin as well. A lot of the burst damage, Templar's Verdict, etc. is about 6k. You pop back up very quickly, and it is such a nice ability to keep you there. I think because there is no PvP scaling as well, maximum health is a big thing, is a big point, which is why having maximum health healing is a very good thing indeed. Ancestral Guidance, if you're not the main target, if you know you're not going to be hit, so let's play you're playing with a Warlock perhaps, you could take this. It's a very long cooldown, but for the next 10 seconds, 25% of your damage and healing is converted to healing up to 3 nearby injured party members or raid members. It's kind of like a Vamp Embrace, an interesting ability, but it's not worth to not have the Nature's Guardian. It really can save you because we can't wall in stuns. It is nice to have an ability that will keep you up when you're in a kidney shot, and especially as how bursty everything is, the swaps could be really, really bad. Windrush Totem is more of a PvE totem. I wouldn't take this. It just increases your movement speed. Maybe there's a niche sort of way to use it, but with a 2-minute cooldown, I can't think of anything other than kiting, and for a lot of people, they have slows, they have grips, they can keep you there. There's no way this would ever be useful, I don't think, in a PvP situation. Alright guys, taking a look at the level 45 row, I always go Primal Elementalist, and the reason why I go Primal Elementalist is because my Earth Elemental is buffed. Your Earth, Fire, and Storm Elementals are drawn from Primal Elementals, 80% more powerful than regular Elementals, with additional abilities, and you gain direct control over them. Fire Elemental hits hard, hits really hard. Sometimes its Fire Blast can be my top 5 damage. It really hits hard, and it's a very nice cooldown. There are Conduits that synergize and keep it out for longer as well, which I think will be really, really good for buffing that damage. It's kind of crazy. But the main thing is buffing your Earth Ellie. Your Earth Ellie being buffed is a big thing. It gives you a second wall, and it stuns. Sometimes against rogues and against these classes that really control your healer, you need that stun, you need a way to kite, and you need that second wall. It's another 40%. It's a big wall, and I think it's much worth than some of the other options at this level. You can press it whilst you're stunned as well. That's something that you can't do with your own wall, which is Astral Shift. You can't do that if you're stunned. You can only pre-wall that sort of thing. So that's really useful and can keep you up. It's a very, very important cooldown. It is on 5 minutes, so it's a long cooldown, but I think it's worth over the other options. Ice Fury is more of a PvE ability. I would definitely take this if I'm doing PvE. It's a very nice ability, but not very good in PvP anymore. Surge of Power, again, I've seen people use this. I don't think it's any good. I think Surge of Power is built around Earthshock, which you don't cast that much. It's not something that we want to build around. I think there could be a very niche way of doing it, especially with the Frost Shock freezing the target in place for 6 seconds if you want to kite. But again, you lose that second wall, you lose the Fire Elemental, which does a lot of damage. I genuinely think it's not worth over losing second wall on Earth Ellie and better Fire Ellie. Alright guys, onto the final tier, level 50 tier. Stormkeeper is my choice. Charge yourself with lightning, causing your next 2 lightning bolts to deal 150% more damage, and also causes your next 2 lightning bolts or chain lightnings to be an instant cast and trigger an elemental overload on every target. Now guys, if you remember from my mastery, when we talked about mastery, that is 85% of the damage that you do there. If you take that, we get 150% more damage. It's 85% of that. So in essence, I believe, and my maths isn't great, that is over 100% damage. Your elemental mastery would do 150%, and then maybe, I think, maybe 120%. I don't know, I'm not sure about the maths on that one, but it definitely does a more than your regular lightning bolts hit for on the second cast. I've actually had it sometimes where the overload has done more damage than the first cast. I think I hit for 6k and then immediately 7k afterwards, or 8k afterwards. It is kind of crazy how strong Stormkeeper is, especially on a 1 minute cooldown. You can really synergize this with a lot of damage that you do, and I'll be going over that later, but it is an incredible talent. It is really, really nice. Obviously, this also works with Master of Elements. If you take that it does 150% more damage, Master of Elements buffs that by 20%, so at least the first lightning bolt cast that you get off will hit at 170% extra damage, which is kind of crazy. And then on top of that, you have the 250% crit damage chance as well, so that could go even further. Taking a look at the other parts on the level 50 talent row, you've got Ascendance. Now, Ascendance was really good in the beta because of how it worked with Primordial Wave. It would absolutely continuously throw lava bursts out, and it was kind of crazy. I don't think it's worth any more. It's a 3-minute cooldown. It's really, really long. I just think in these games, you're going to get so much more worth out of Stormkeeper, being able to recycle your damage burst in a short period of time. You don't want to be having to wait 3 minutes. You definitely don't have the time to wait 3 minutes before you're useful. I really don't think it's any good at the minute. Although I think Ascendant should be baseline for all Shamans, but hey, that's just my personal opinion. Unlimited power, I think this is probably more of a PvE talent. I would never ever really take it for PvP. You lose out on so much damage. I'd actually take Ascendance over this one. I think Stormkeeper is way too good. Alright guys, that is our talents. We're now going to look at the PvP talents. As you can see, the ones that I have here, Lightning Lasso, Sky Fury Totem, and Grounding Totem, these are my baseline. I actually rarely ever change this because, and this is a big important why, I actually often take Grounding Totem into melee at the minute, and the reason why is because a lot of classes with the Covenant abilities do magic damage, and I think that with Grounding Totem you have a chance to ground a lot of things. Let's say you're going up against a DK/DH with a Priest healer. The Priest presses Dark Archangel. They're doing damage as well. You put down the Grounding Totem, you are stopping the Priest damage. The Priest is trying to cast Mind Games, and you haven't got kicked because you kicked something else. Or maybe you kicked his Penance, maybe you kicked his Shadow, but he's now ready to cast again, and you've got about 8 seconds left on your kick. You put down Grounding Totem, that Mind Games is gone. So let's have a look at them. Lightning Lasso. Grips the target in lightning, stunning, and dealing 9.4k damage. Nature damage over 5 seconds whilst the target is lassoed. Can move whilst channeling. This is such a useful ability. As I said before, with the 20% increase to Master of Elements, this can sometimes do maybe 13k damage in one go, 15k even. It does a lot of damage, and if you think about this, and my health is 23.8 at the minute, most people go up to about 30k when they got full gear. That does a lot of damage. That is almost half someone's health. If you're lucky, and it really does it. It's a crazy ability, and obviously it stuns them as well for 5 seconds. The only problem is you have to watch for the stun DRs, otherwise you'll do half damage and it's on a 30-second cooldown. So just be careful on that, guys. Sky Fury. Now this is the creme de la creme of abilities. This is such a beautiful ability, and if you've seen some of my previous videos, you'll know that if you don't kill the Sky Fury, my damage goes up exponentially. Summons a fire totem with 50 health at the base of the feet of the caster for 15 seconds that increases the critical effect of damage and healing spells of all nearby allies within 40 yards by 20% for 15 seconds. 15 seconds is a long time, by the way, guys, in the space of a game. 20%, okay? We do 250% crit. That is just an Elemental Shaman thing. That pushes it up to 270%. It will hit hard, and especially with your Master of Elements Stormkeeper, with Sky Fury up, 7 to 8k, and then another 7 to 8k, that is someone's entire health pool gone in 2 globals. So that's a lot, and obviously your Lava Burst as well will hit really hard, maybe 4k, 5k sometimes, depends exactly if you've got Flame Shock up, but it really can hit. So make sure that you've got Sky Fury and you've put it in a really nice place so people can't kill it. It's very useful, and that is a skill in itself. Grounding Totem, this is a really useful ability. As I was saying just before, it can stop a lot of the magic damage that a lot of classes are putting out at the minute. It's a very useful ability. I will actually take this most games. However, if you are playing into something like maybe a monk, and then DPS that don't actually use any casted abilities, let's have a look what else you could choose instead of Grounding Totem. In my opinion, with the rogue meta at the minute, Swelling Waves could be really good. It's a good way to, when you cast Healing Surge and you get healed for 50% of the amount 3 seconds later, it's a nice way to keep that up, especially if you get dueled by a rogue. Another one is Purifying Waters. It does 3% of your total health. That's your maximum health. It is a really nice ability. I think it could be a lot of fun for keeping you up. But again, you know, you're purging a lot. There's only so much you can do. So it is kind of a bit of a difficult one. I would take this sometimes, maybe into Resto Druid. But again, Grounding Totem does tend to be a bit more useful for me. Another one you could look at is Spectral Recovery. Again, it might be nice if you sit in it when you're getting stunned and you know, you're in a full kidney and everything like that, but I would always take Grounding Totems, and most of the time you'll be playing up against a rogue mage comp. Better to have Grounding Totem, you'll stop a lot more with that. Alright guys, that is everything for the PvP talents. Let's move on to Covenant choice. The Covenant choice that I have gone for my Shaman is Necrolord. The reason why is very simple. There are some very nice Soulbinds, and there are some very nice abilities that you have, that you gain as Elemental Shaman. I think this is the best choice. I'll be going over the reason why just now. The main reason why we're going Necrolord is because of Primordial Wave. Now, as you may know if you've played a bit of Elemental Shaman, or if you haven't, then this is the reason why. Flame Shock is on a 6-second cooldown. A lot of our damage comes off from doing Lava Surge and hitting with Lava Burst. So obviously being able to spread Flame Shock is really important. Now, something you may not know is that most people's Dispel is on a 7 to 8 second cooldown, and what that means is that if our Flame Shock is on a 6-second cooldown, the Dispel is very easily able to keep up sometimes, especially if we get stunned and we cannot refresh the Flame Shock, which means that we are getting 0, and I mean 0, lava surge procs, sorry. So we're not getting those very efficiently. There's also a lower percent chance now. It's now down to 10% from 18% in BFA. That is kind of hard. So with Primordial Wave, we get to apply a second Flame Shock every 45 seconds, which is great, but it also does something else, which is really cool. So let me read this. Blast your target with a Primordial Wave, dealing 879 shadow damage, and apply Flame Shock to an enemy, or heal an ally for 878. Your next Lava Burst will also hit all targets affected by your Flame Shock for 80% of the normal damage. This is great. It means that not only do we, and it's an instant cast as well, by the way, guys, not only do we put on a new Flame Shock onto a target, but the next time we do a Lava Burst, it hits all targets with Flame Shock, which is, 3 to 4k extra damage on other people, which is tough to deal with, especially if you're playing a rock comp like Affliction Knock. It is really, really great. The second ability you get is an ability called Fleshcraft. Form a shield of flesh and bone over 4 seconds that absorbs damage equal to 20% of your maximum health for 2 minutes. Channeling near a corpse claims up their essence to grow the shield up to 50% of your maximum health. This is the most effective against powerful enemies. Obviously that last bit there is more of a PvE thing, but having a Fleshcraft where you get a little bit of a shield to start off with is a nice way to start, especially as we do not have that many defensives. However, most of the time this is going to be a struggle to get off in the open if you're going up against a rogue. Maybe if you're going against no stealthers, then this is perfectly fine to start off, but most of the time you want to get into combat as quickly as possible. All of these abilities are really, really great, and that's why I think the Covenant choice of Necrolord is the best one. You could also take a look at Venthyr. Chain Harvest does a lot of damage, but for Elemental Shaman you have to cast that. You will have to cast Chain Harvest, and I don't think Door of Shadows warrants enough. It is a really cool ability. It allows you to zoom away really, really quickly, but I genuinely think that Necrolord is the best one just for keeping the Flame Shock up and the extra damage you get from Lava Burst. There's a lot of synergy in your toolkit, and I will be going over that in my PvP tips and tricks. Okay guys, let's take a look at Soulbinds. Now, there are 2 Soulbinds you can go for at the minute. I will explain why I've gone for one at the moment versus the other. You can go for Emily, or you can go for a Plague Deviser Marileth. Now, both of them are very good. I think Emily is really good at the moment, at this present moment of time, whilst our renown is not at maximum, or at least not at 30, I believe. And then the reason why I think Plague Deviser Marileth is the best in general. I will be going over that, but I will explain a few things first. I'll explain their strengths at the minute. One of the big strengths for Plague Deviser Marileth is this Ooze's Frictionless Coating. When reduced below 50% health, Ooze courses over you, granting you a shield of 15% of your maximum health for 10 seconds. It may only occur once per 30 seconds. This links up very nicely with Nature's Guardian, allowing us to get shields and buffs to our health when we are brought low, because we have no chance to really do anything about it because our wall cannot be used in stuns. This is really nice. It's a very good defensive cooldown. But the main thing is the ultimate form right at the bottom. When channeling Fleshcraft, you are immune to crowd control and you regenerate 2% health every 1 second. If you finish the full channel, you gain 4 seconds of crowd control immunity, during which you regenerate 2% health every 1 second. This is an incredible defensive ability, and it will be really, really good. You can be kicked though, of course, but if someone's kick is down and they can stun you, you just press that and they can't do a thing, and you're regenerating health, and you're getting a shield back as well. It is really, really nice. And obviously if you finish the full channel, you get more crowd control immunity, so they can't do it for even longer. This is great for healers, and I think this will be really, really good for Elemental Shaman as well, as a defensive way to stop, I don't know, a kidney shot. If it's up, you can really outplay people, and it'll be really funny to see people waste their 20-second cooldown kidney shot on you if you can really outpsych them. So that is the reason why Plaguebearer Marileth is really cool. With Emily, it's slightly different. I think for the minute, with how bursty things are, you want to try and help your allies do a lot more damage. You want to help yourself do a lot more damage. And as you may not know, but primary stat is king at the minute. It does a lot of damage. Lead by example is a great way to buff your entire party and make sure you absolutely destroy people. Lead by example, primordial wave increases your primary stat by 5% and up to 4 nearby allies' primary stat by 2% for about 7-ish seconds. You gain 2% additional primary stat for each ally affected. So you can get up to, in arena, about 9% extra intellect for about 7 seconds after this happens. So if you can get all your damage out, that is quite a lot of extra damage you're doing. Plus, your allies are getting an additional 2% as well, which is really, really nice. That buffs their damage a little bit, buffs your damage a bit, and if you can coordinate, that's really, really good. Another great thing with Emily at the minute is Fleshcraft increasing your maximum health by 5% for 30 seconds. If you get that out before you start and you go into a stun or you get attacked, that's some extra health to deal with, also on top of your shield. I think at the minute this Emily is good whilst we don't have maximum renown. I think it's really, really nice. You can play Marilith if you want to be a little bit more defensive, but I think this is really helpful for getting damage out. It's entirely up to you. The playstyle is up to you on this one. I think Marilith will be the best for when we're at renown 30, but for the minute, this is what I'm choosing. Alright guys, let's take a look at Conduits. Now, I think one of the things that you need to bear in mind with Conduits is that you need at least one that buffs your Covenant ability. So for Shamans, this is one called Tumbling Waves. So at the base end, Primordial Wave has a 20% chance to not incur its cooldown, which means that when you press it and you put a Flame Shock on and get that second buff, where you can shoot out another Lava Burst, there is a chance that that is no cooldown. So you put that Flame Shock on, you can put another Flame Shock on, or you can put that, you can send a Primordial Wave out, cast your Lava Burst, send it out again, cast your Lava Burst, and you're doing way more extra damage, and you're also keeping Flame Shock up. It is a nice way to combat the dispel, the dispel that the enemy will be doing to get rid of your Flame Shock. It is really nice, and I definitely recommend it. If you look all the way down, you get to item level 330. That is 40% chance. Obviously, this would be later on in the expansion, but 40% chance is really nice for that to reset. So that is that's almost a 50% chance. It's crazy how awesome that would be to have Flame Shock up all the time. Another one you can take a look at is Embrace of Earth. It depends on your build. I think as a potency one, I think this is a sort of the throw up between being more defensive or another conduit that I will be taking, which is more offensive. I think with this, with the opportunity to go 6% more target healing, that means it really synergizes well with another conduit that buffs your healing surge, self-healing. This would be a great way to essentially be able to self-heal yourself whilst your healer is in a CC chain. If you're really careful about it, you'll actually never be able to die, and also you'll be able to off-heal very, very well. I think this is worth if you are not the main target, but it really depends on whether you want to be more defensive or if you want to be more damage orientated. Taking a look at the more damage orientated one, this is keeping your Fire Elemental up. As I told you, Fire Ellie does a lot of damage, but also whilst Fire Ellie is up, it means that your Flame Shock is lasting for a lot longer. There is a new talent change. I talked about that in my changes to Elemental Shaman, but it lasts for a lot longer. It goes up to maybe 45 seconds, so your Flame Shock does last there. Obviously, that doesn't matter too much because of the dispels, but having your Fire Ellie out and doing a lot more damage for a lot longer, maybe getting another Meteor in there is crazy. It does last for a long time, and I think this will be one of the best ones for being offensive. Alright guys, that was the potency conduits. Let's take a look at the endurance conduits. Now, the one that I think is the best and the one that I think we'll be going for is Refreshing Waters. Your healing surge is 15% more effective on yourself. Obviously, that goes all the way up to 18% at the minute. That can also go all the way up to 30%. As I said, you do healing surges for 7k sometimes. This means that you will be getting a lot of self-healing out. Especially on yourself. Not so effective if it's not on you, if you're not the main target. That's kind of difficult. So I think this will be a sort of situational one. Another one you can have a look at is the Vital Accretion, which is your Earth Elemental, increases your maximum health by 20%. This is a 5-minute cooldown. I think this will be really, really nice into rogue teams. If there's ever a chance that we can change conduits in games, I would choose this into rogues because I'd start off with a lot of health and they're going to struggle to just blast through that, especially with a lot of the healing that you can do. I think this will be really useful. It's up to you what you do. I think the best thing is to test it out and give it a try. If you feel like you need that maximum health in the beginning or when you get the Earth Valley out, it is an incredible cooldown. It makes that cooldown much more worth, especially as you've got a wall as well. This is a really nice conduit. Looking at the finesse conduits, there is one that in particular I think is very strong, and this is Crippling Hex. Enemies affected by your hex deal 8% reduced damage for 8 seconds after the hex is removed. I think this is great. It is a defensive cooldown. We know that hex is down to 20 seconds now. It means that when you hex the off target is doing a lot of damage. It means that when they come out of that for 8 seconds, they are doing 10% damage. That means if you get a hex out and it gets instantly removed by another shaman, that effect still stays. They are still doing that 10% or 8% or 9% less damage onto your ally, even if it gets removed instantly. So it means that casting hex is a lot more worth in general. I think it would be awesome to have that, and I would always go Crippling Hex. You guys can take a look at some of the other conduits. I don't think they're worth. I think these are the best ones for Shaman. I would really take a look at them and make sure that you figure it out. But have a read through everything. I really recommend reading through everything. It is a very useful way of making sure that you are up to date. Alright guys, let's take a look at the legendaries. Now there are a few out there that I think are good. I'll tell you which one I think is the best. I think this is the best in slot. I think this is one works really well in PvP, and the reason why it works really well in PvP you will find out. But the ones that I think you can take a look at, you could definitely take a look at Cephas. I know that a lot of people are using it at the minute. I don't think it's the best, but it's something that could be really useful. Reduce the effectiveness of crowd controlling effects by 10%. Successfully applying a loss of control effect to an enemy, interrupting an enemy or dispelling any target will increase all your secondary stats by 80 for 15 seconds. This effect cannot occur more than once every 30 seconds. This legendary stacks with Orc racial hardiness. So hardiness reduces stun duration for 20%. This adds another 10% on top of that. That makes it 30%. That is really nice. It means that you stay in crowd control for less. So 10% for general crowd control, another 30% if you're Orc for stuns. That is really nice. It means that, for example, a kidney shot is maybe less than 4 seconds, which could be really nice for surviving, having more time to press your wall, having more time to get out of stuns and get away, get back to your healer, or line of sight and get rid of all the damage that they're doing on you. It also means that other shamans are doing less damage because lightning lasso is a stun, so that lasts less time on you. It's just general quite a nice way. If you find that you are struggling at the minute and you haven't got an opportunity to get your legendary yet, I would consider taking this. This might be stronger later on in different patches when secondary stats get a bit stronger and we have more of a focus on stuns and killing in stuns, so a bit more of a dampening side of things. I think this will be a really nice one, but again, these are just the options. I don't think it's BIS. Another one you can take a look at is Elemental Equilibrium. Dealing direct fire, frost, and nature damage within 8 seconds will increase all damage dealt by 15% for 10 seconds. This effect can only occur once every 30 seconds. It's just a general damage buff. I think this is good. I think this is probably the second best. I think, you know, doing any frost damage. So, for example, you can do a frost shock directly into your rotation for damage. I think this would be a good way to increase the damage dealt by 15%. We also have other ways to do it. So for example, you get that lava burst out every 30 seconds and then you can do it. It's a little bit hard to control this though. That's the only problem. I think there's a lot to do with controlling it, and it's a little bit more random. You may not be able to line it all up. There is the legendary that I'm going to be talking about, I think is the best. You can line everything up, and I think that is the reason why I wouldn't take this personally. Windspeaker's Lava Resurgent is the best one in my opinion. When you cast Earth Shock, gain Lava Surge and increase the damage of your next Lava Burst by 20%. This is pretty massive. I genuinely think this is so good. It means that you can line up all of your damage. When you press Earth Shock, you gain Lava Surge instantly. So you have that Insta Burst, instant Lava Surge. You press Primordial Wave, that's on. You press Earth Shock, you've got your instant Lava Surge cast. You press Echoing Shock, and then you press your Lava Burst, and you just suddenly fly off. And if that overloads, then you're doing a heckin' load of damage. That is one regular Lava Burst cast, followed by your Echoing Shock one, followed by your Primordial Wave cast as well. That is 3 guaranteed hits. All of them can overload, so that's potentially 6. The first one's 20% increase. You've got a 250% chance of that critting way higher. You may have Sky Fury up, so that's 270% chance. You could be hitting for 6 to 7k, maybe potentially on some of the casts, and obviously with Elemental Overload, that's 85% of that, so 85% of that 120% increased lava surge. It's crazy. That is a lot of damage, and you can control that as well. Every Earthshock, you can do that. And I think that's what's nice, being able to control your abilities, not relying on RNG like we had for the last patch. It's so refreshing. So I would take Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence if you're looking at the legendaries. Plus, it goes on feet, so you can increase that on your main stat as well. It's not the best one, obviously, you know, having something on legs or something bigger would be nice for main stat, but hey, you know, feet and the effect is just too good. Alright guys, we're going to take a look at the macros and the UI that I use. So very quickly, just going to talk about the few bits and pieces that I use to help myself track Elemental Shaman cooldowns and use Elemental Shaman abilities. Let's start off by taking a look at my macro for Focus, Cast, Cleanse, Spirit. Now, as you may know, or may not know, we can get rid of curse effects, that is including hexes, Curse of Agony, etc, etc. But the main thing is, obviously, when we stop another shaman putting hex on our healer. As you can see here, you just put your healer's name in, and then when you can, you press the Focus Cast macro, the button that you've assigned to it. So for me, that's Shift 2, but that's off in a different bar, so you can't see that at the minute. It'll immediately get rid of that hex, and I think you need to be able to do that to be very quick. You want to stay on your target, you're still targeting your target, but you want to instantly get your healer out almost as soon as you see that hex. You don't even have to kick it, you just know it's coming, so you can get rid of that. Obviously, be mindful of your enemy team stunning you so that you can't remove the hex. That is important, so make sure you're in a nice position to do so, or that your healer is moving towards you in a nice position to do so, but you can instantly get rid of that hex. That is not a problem at all, and that's what I use for this. I also have a focus hex, so this is the way that I do targeting. You can do arena 1, 2, and 3 as well if you have the keybinds for it, if you feel comfortable with that. I always tend to do the focus hex. It's just the best way. That's how I learned to play. It's just a focus cast, so I don't even have to select another target. I just instantly focus target, and I know that I can do it. It is a very useful ability, and I think I recommend using it. I also have a on-use cursor macro for my earthquake. It means I can just put that down instantly. I think that's really useful for speed. I have exactly the same thing for Earthbind as well. I think it's just the speed of getting it out. It's a little bit hard to get used to the ranges, but it means that, for example, when I run in to stop rogues from sapping me or getting a sap on my healer, I can just press that and it is there and it's useful, and it's very quickly and gets me into combat very quickly. I also have a focus shear macro. This is to help with focus kicks on the healer. I know it's there. I can just quickly turn around. Make sure you're facing the healer though. You've got to be facing. You can't be turned away, unlike warlocks, which is really tough, but you can just turn around, press it very quickly, and then stay on your main target. I also have a burst macro for my Stormkeeper. This uses my offensive trinket on 13. 13 is the top one, 14 is the bottom one. Try not to get those confused, because if you've got trinket on 13, that could be kind of disastrous by using your trinket every time you press Stormkeeper. But this coincides my damage bit buff, which increases my intellect. I can press that and it will do a lot of damage. The final one that I use is a focus cast purge. I think this is super useful. It's a really great way to keep healers clean while staying on your main target. If you don't have many buttons to press purge. That's what I always say. And I think if you've got a holy pala, keeping them clean, meaning that you can get rid of that divine favor really quickly when you need to, I think that'll be very useful. These are what I use and I think it's great. So those are my macros. I don't use a lot. They're mostly just focus macros. They really help me keep offensive and on the main target, and also watching out for the healer as well really helps with my awareness. Guys, I don't really use a lot on my UI. A lot of my add-ons I'll do a full add-on video for, and obviously how I set up my weak auras, but the one that I do want to show you is a Master of Elements weak aura that I have. Guys, as you can see here, the weak aura that pops up over my head, it just lets me know when I have Master of Elements up. It's better than keeping track of the small little icon in the top right of my screen, up where you can see that little tabard and crown symbol. That's where it usually goes. But when this is up, I know that the next damage of nature or frost or physical, I'm doing at 20% extra damage, so I know when that's up. I press Lava Burst, and then I can press Stormkeeper and do my goes there. It's really useful. I recommend taking a look for it. Just type into Google Master of Elements weak aura, and you should be able to find it. Just look for this little symbol that's normally on there. so hopefully you'll be able to find it. I'll also put a few links down below in the descriptions if you do want to take a look at that. But again, I will be doing all of that in the add-ons and UI videos that I do. Alright guys, as you can see, we are now here in the old BFA training dummy section. Only reason why is because it's absolutely empty at the minute, so there's not like millions of people running around trying stuff out. This is how I'm going to be giving the PvP tips and tricks. So let's go take a look at some stuff. As you can see in the bottom right corner, I have got a little breakdown of damage. This is damage that I did in a game where I kept up with the Destruction Warlock, which is kind of nice. But as you can see, this is sort of the breakdown of the damage here. Lava Burst at the top, it really hits hard. As you can see, it's normally between 3 to maybe 4k-ish. I didn't do too much, but you know, I did like 9 casts and I did 50k damage. It's still quite a lot. On top of that, you've got the Lava Burst Overload, which is down there. Lightning Bolt, this is mostly just from me doing Stormkeeper. The cast here isn't much. As you can see, the damage is huge. I did up to 9k damage on Stormkeeper. This damage is Omega. It does a lot of damage, and I think it kind of just shows you the burstiness that Elemental Shaman has when you have the Sky Fury up. Lightning Lasso, again, being number sort of 3. There's a lot of huge ticks. I did a tick for almost 5k one time. That is a huge tick. If I recall correctly from this game, I didn't get many chances to get some lassos off, and I don't think they lasted for a very, very long time. So I did a lot of damage in that period. It is a big, big cooldown. Alright guys, one of the main things you want to make sure that you're doing all the time when you're playing Elemental Shaman is getting Flame Shocks up as much as possible. You want to make sure that it's up there. You want to make sure that it's on a target. As I said before, you know, Flame Shock doesn't last very long. It's almost like sort of 15 seconds. It is really, really not long at all. So, you know, people want to... You want to make sure that you're refreshing it, getting up to 20 to 22. But again, the Dispel is very, very quick. People have a chance to dispel that every sort of 6 to 7 seconds. It really isn't up very much. But what I will do is I'll run through how I do major damage when I want to go. So when I want to do damage, I'll make sure that Flame Shock is up. When you have your Legendary, I don't have the Legendary at the minute because it's not out. But you want to make sure that you have at least your Primordial Wave out. Primordial Wave goes out. Make sure you have your Sky Fury out. You want to make sure you've got your Stormkeeper ready. You want to press Echoing Shock then. You want to press your Lava Burst. Lava Burst does huge amount of damage. There's loads of them coming out. And then you press Stormkeeper and they are more than likely dead if you've got a CC chain. As you can see there, that was a heckin' load of damage. Let's have a look. Lightning Burst. I did 5 to 4k between that for 4 hits. So if you times that by 4, that's almost 20k damage on itself. Lava Burst, again, critical hit for 6 to 5k. That's with Sky Fury up. Obviously, we're not in a PvP area at the minute, so that's going to be a little bit more large. But that was a lot of damage. And on top of that, we also had the Lava Burst Overloads, and one of them crit for almost 6k. Let's say that's probably more than likely like 5, maybe 4 in an arena. There's a little bit less than that. Obviously, on top of that, the Lava Burst damage will be buffed if you've got that Legendary. That is how you do damage. That rotation... 45 seconds to 1 minute. You can do that amount of damage, that much burst damage within a minute. That is crazy. It is huge. So that is how I will do damage. That's what I'll wait up, and I'll probably pop Fire Rally. As you can see here, Fire Rally's up 2.5 minutes. That's a long cooldown, but if you use that early and you're getting damage out, get that out as early as you can, so your damage is kind of rolling, and then you'll be sitting very comfortably. Okay guys, a few tips when dealing with some of the harder comps. If you've got 2 melee on you, this is what I would do. I will put down Earthbind Totem and I will kite them away from my healer. I will make sure that, that I can move and I can cast. One of the great things that you have when you're playing Elemental Shaman is that you have a lot of instant casts. You have a lot of way to slow people. Make sure you've got Frost Shock up on both targets. Make sure you use Thunderstorm only when you're stunned, guys. It is really not worth using it when you are up and able to move, because you can kite them. Spirit Wolf, you cannot be slowed below 100%, so you just run away from them. Make sure Frost Shock is up, make sure Earthbind is up, make sure that your partner, your healer, or your other DPS partner is CCing them for you, slowing them. Keep them away and let them do the damage. If they're going you and you're playing with a Warlock, for example, it is very, very bad news for them. So as long as you can survive, that's the main thing. Another main thing I would really recommend is learning how to fake cast. Now, what I do here, guys, is to make sure that you figure out where people kick. Now, it is a mental game. You have to figure people out how they're thinking, and that's tough. That's really tough. But what you can do is that most people tend to kick around the halfway line. That's my general feeling. Do it around the halfway line. So what you can do is, and it feels like a long time to wait, but if you get up there, you can kind of guess that most people are going to move there. So you just cancel the cast by moving at around halfway. And genuinely, most of the time, people will throw their kicks into that. If they're better players, they normally wait until the end. So if you're playing slightly higher up, they'll normally wait to the end, or they'll mix it up and kick you really early. You just got to figure out what they're doing and how they play. And most of the time, if they're really like rushing to get a kill, or if they're rushing to stop you, or they're sort of, triggered, or if they're sort of panicking, you know that they'll throw that kick as soon as they see the cast. So what you can do is you start casting and instantly interrupt it, and people will more than likely throw their kick into there. So that's how you play mind games. It is difficult. You're learning how people think. It is more like a psychological thing, but that's part and parcel of playing any sport. Just figure them out, and that's really key. Another thing to do is to learn what other classes do. So important, guys. I cannot stress this enough. Learn what other classes do, because it will save you. So, for example, if you know that Kidney Shot is on a 20-second cooldown, you can track that. You know more or less that what he's going to do is he's going to Kidney Shot you and use Echoing Reprimand, which is that big arcane damage for about 7 to 8k. If you think that is coming, and you know that's coming, and you've seen that set up, you can see that the mage is casting Polymorph. You can't stop it. You have no grounding totem. You have no kick. What are you going to do? Press wall. Press Earth Ellie. Run away. Line of sight. Hex the mage. Hex the rogue. Do something. You have to press something to stop it. My suggestion is that you save your walls for then. Try and pre-wall as much as you can. I really struggle to do this a lot of the time, or I actually get Earth Ellie out a lot more. It is a really great way to stop damage and save yourself. It is really good. Make sure you rotate your cooldowns as well. Try not to overlap. If you are pressing Earth Ellie out and you press that wall, do not press Astral Shift. Wait for the next go. It will help out. You'll find actually that the more that you calm down and know what other classes are going to do, so you know when they're popping off, you know when they're doing this, and you match their cooldowns with your own, you'll find that you'll survive a lot longer, and that the more that you stay calm and less panicked, you'll do a lot. Another really cool, interesting tip as well is that if you want to try and get CC on, and this is what I do most of the time, and you are struggling to get that healer, make sure you press this wonderful little button here, which is Spirit Walker's Grace. You just press that, and then as long as you can see your target, if he pops out, you press Hex and you run at them. So you press in that, you press this, you go to do Hex. Obviously I can't do it now, but I'll show you. With you press the lava bolt, you're running around the corner, and Hex, boom, he's done. And if you can get the angle right, you can get some really nice hexes. That is really key and useful. Another really cool tip for playing Elemental Shaman is make sure that you can rotate your damage well. When you have Master of Elements up, make sure you are doing nature damage. Try not to waste it too much on Frost Shock, but don't be afraid to do that. Don't hold back on damage because you think you're going to waste Master of Elements. It's just another lava burst. But make sure that you are rotating that in well. Make sure that if you've got Lasso up, you use Lasso well. It is all about situation. You are a utility caster. What that means is that you can stop things. You are there to help buff your party members. You are there to help stop the damage, and you are there to make sure that the main damage dealer, whether it be a Warlock or otherwise, is getting the opportunity to do all that damage. I think that's really key. Guys, if you have any specific PvP tricks you want to know, dealing with specific comps, dealing with other things, I will do matchups as we go through the season. But if you have any specific questions on that, please ask me below. I'm more than happy to give you my thoughts on that. Alright guys, let's take a look at the comps. So these are the comps that I think work best with Elemental Shaman. These are the ones that I have the most fun with. I've played a lot of these comps over the last few months, and I think they're really great. I'll go over what makes them strong, why I think, what things to look out for when you play them, etc. So hopefully you'll get a few details. Let's start with Lock Shaman. I think Warlock Shaman is incredible. This is what I play a lot of. Warlock, both Affliction and Destro, they do a lot of damage. When you play with Affliction, it keeps your Flame Shock safe. They can't often dispel, otherwise they take a lot of damage and it silences them. So it means that you have a lot more opportunities to press Lava Burst, to have instant cast Lava Burst. The damage is kind of crazy. It is super nice, but it is a rock comp. Most of the time you will be dealing lots of damage when Dark Soul is up. You are basically the guy that finishes them off, whilst the Warlock is making sure that all the dots are up and rotting them down. When you're playing with Destro, it is a slightly different style. Destro does a lot of burst damage. You are there to basically set up the kill and make sure that the healer is hexed and that the target you're killing is lassoed, so they can't do anything. They can't press evasion, they can't press cloak, they can't press any of their defensive cooldowns, apart from maybe like a wall or something if they are feral. You do that and they are dead instantly. Chaos Bolt hits for 11k sometimes with Sky Fury up, so that is a lot of damage that they can do instantly. I think the great thing about this comp is that Fear and Hex do not DR. There is no diminishing returns on those. It means that you can CC chain really easily if you put your Hex up after the end of the Fear. That's 8 seconds Hex, 6 second Fear. That's a long time that they're stuck in CC, especially if they got no trinket, and you can definitely kill in that time period. You also have Mortal Coil, which is another Fear that doesn't DR with others, and they've got a stun as well. Hellstone's super useful in this meta. Being able to get that heal if you're not playing Kyrian is a really great way of keeping yourself buffed up, and obviously your off healing is super nice. Playing with a priest, obviously, and a druid maybe as well, but playing with a priest means that you've got mind games, so you can kind of use that as an execute on their healer. Once the target gets low, throw mind games onto the enemy healer and he will kill his DPS, or they will just die. So that's always fun. Another great comp to take a look at is Fire Mage Ellie. I played a lot of this last season. I got to 2.4 with that. I think Fire Mage is really bursty. Again, similar to Destro Lock. They have a lot of crowd control as well with Polymorph. Sadly, Polymorphs, they do stack, but what it means is that they can polymorph the off target, so the other DPS, whilst you hex the main healers, that meaning the healer cannot be dispelled, or vice versa. Let's say you're playing up against a Shaman Lock and you are Fire Mage Ellie. You can hex the Shaman, the mage can polymorph the healer, and you just absolutely one bang that Warlock. It is a really nice comp. Polymorph is great. Obviously, Counterspell is a really nice kick that they have. They also can klepto a lot of the damage, a lot of healing stuff from resto druids as well, and obviously you can purge that, so it's really nice. I think that comp is a lot of fun to play. The damage output is massive. You build up the damage by lassoing the main target, whilst the Fire Mage press combustion, it is huge. The damage is kind of omega. Pairing that up with a Resto Druid for Cyclone, or a Priest for Mind Games, and the Fears as well, you'll have a lot of great fun. Obviously, some of the weaknesses is that they could decide to go you, but if they decide to go you, the Fire Mage, like kind of the Warlock, will just absolutely one bang them. If you're the main focus target, you can survive quite easily with Earth and Shield and your off healing and other things that you can do as well to keep yourself afloat. Obviously, Mage Peels I think is a little bit better than the Warlock Peels, because Polymorph is such a nice ability that keeps them there, and obviously they have to waste their Dispel on that, so that keeps your Flame Shock up. Thundercleave is also a great one. That's Elemental Shaman Warrior. Elemental Shaman Warrior is a classic. It is a really great comp. You have a lot of pressure on people. You can absolutely slam them. Having an Execute and a Mortal Strike is a really great effect for reducing that healing. It really hurts them. They do so much damage at the minute. Spear of Bastion means that they can't get away, so there's a chance for you to absolutely unload all your damage onto them. It really hurts well. You get Commanding Shout as well as a way to buff the healing, so obviously increasing your maximum health. You've got Intervene to stop the damage done to you from melee, so if you're going up against like a rogue that's just absolutely blasting your face, the warrior can intervene you and you are safe for 6 seconds. Obviously the warrior's taking damage, but warriors. Having another spell reflect, a stun, a kick, and a slow, obviously that means that you don't have to put up frost shocks, is great. It means that you are absolutely keeping these guys locked down, and it's really easy to do damage. The only problem with this comp is that you are a main focus target. They are never going the warrior. They are always hitting you, which is tough. It means that you can't get the damage out enough. It means that you are having to fake cast. You can bait the fake cast as well with a lot of things, but again, like they are on top of you. Your cast is being interrupted. You are more slowly getting damage out, and they are absolutely pummeling your face in if you're melee. Obviously perfectly fine if you're going up against casters, really easy, but just something to bear in mind. Another really great melee comp for this is playing with a Windwalker. Windwalkers are even more busted than warriors, I think. They do so much damage. They really hit hard, and obviously they have got the Execute at 15%. They've also got another Mortal Strike, and their peels are kind of crazy if you're going up against double melee with Ring of Peace. They could probably solo a healer whilst you're just holding on to that melee. The damage output is kind of crazy, and it synergizes really well with the amount of control that you're able to bring. So guys, those are all the comps. I think give them a try. There are obviously other ones, but those are my favorites. Obviously, Ellie Fire Mage was a IEWC winner last season with Wildcard Gaming. Again, another big comp was Ellie Windwalker as well. I think all of these ones will be really, really good. Try them out, see what you think. Let me know how it goes. And guys, that is everything. That is my comprehensive guide for Elemental Shaman. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions. I will answer them. As you know, I've been answering them in the last videos. I'll give you as much information as I possibly can. I will do a video on my UI as well, so if you guys are interested in that, I will do that, as well as add-ons, so that you know everything that I'm using. Hopefully we will be able to get that out as soon as possible. But guys, I appreciate so much for the love. Really hope you found this useful, and I will catch you in the next video. See ya.